Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. As you all are getting settled, we do encourage you to utilize the chat to introduce yourselves, to let us know who we're speaking with, who we're engaging with today, and to also let us know what you're looking forward to as part of today's webinar. We will go ahead and get started. So my name is Nayada Schuler, and I serve as the outgoing chair of the SACAC Webinars Committee and will be assisting behind the scenes with technical support as well as monitoring the Q&A throughout the webinar. On behalf of SACAC and the webinar committee, we would like to welcome you to today's webinar titled Inside the Proposal Process, your guide to submitting a SACAC conference session proposal. We're excited to partner with Anita for today's webinar, which is ultimately designed to assist with offering best practices and support for those interested in exploring the session proposal process as we gear up for the 60th anniversary celebration that will be taking place in the spring. So a few housekeeping notes before we begin. This is a webinar format, so audience mics are muted. Again, we encourage you to use the Q&A function if you have questions for our presenter. And if time allows, we will have the chance to answer those questions towards the end of the webinar. Again, this webinar is also being recorded and will later be shared for viewing purposes. And so at this time, I would like to again thank you for joining us for today's webinar, and we'll now pass things over to Anita to get us started.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Anita Hua, and I serve as SACAC's president-elect. I'm really excited to have some time with you all today. I promise to keep this as short and sweet as it needs to be. I know that this might be your lunch hour or you're just listening to me in the background, and that's totally fine. This will be recorded, so anything that you might miss, you can certainly rewatch the webinar or connect with me personally. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right on in. And our first slide is just an introduction of our conference team. So I have the pleasure of serving on this wonderful team of really creative and thoughtful, intentional, special people, at least for one more year. And we all have kind of a different role as it relates to pulling off this wonderful conference that we are excited to bring to you. So Dr. Corey Bailey is our SACAC Annual Conference Chair, and I am just so excited for all the ways you all will see and feel the love that he has poured into this conference planning experience already. Corey kind of navigates the logistics of all things conference, and that includes being the point of contact for almost every contract that we potentially could have, whether that's with the hotel, with the social venue, or anything else that might come up. AV, security, all of the things. He also coordinates most, if not all, of the volunteers associated with conference. And then, of course, the schedule and those puzzle pieces that exist. So if you ever had a question about conference, most likely Corey can answer it. But in terms of Diana McAfee, who is our SACAC executive assistant, the wonderful, wonderful being that she is, she kind of serves over all things registration, exhibitors, sponsorships, and vendors. So she has that kind of space. But again, much like Corey, can answer just about any question you might have about the annual conference. And then there's me. I stay in my lane of content, truly. It's about session proposals, keynote speakers, that type of thing. So we all have our role, and please know that we also have some wonderful volunteers who serve as chair of college tours, like Lena Andrews, or we might have a Bonnie Tolliver on networking fairs, and of course our anniversary committee with Jeff Schiffman and Pamela Bowie. So yes, we have some people who are helping us, and you'll be hearing about those folks later, but today is really dedicated to kind of my little arena. So let's jump right on in. Oh, let's go back. So if you had questions about where we're going to be, like maybe you're excited about a proposal, but you are like, wait, remind me where we're going to be. We're going to be in New Orleans for our 60th anniversary. So we are looking for really exciting content, but also it's just going to be a great celebration. So we'll be at the Sheraton New Orleans Hotel. If you have been with SACAC long enough to remember the last time that we were in New Orleans, we are legitimately across the street. We were at the Marriott last time, and this time we're on in the Sheraton right off Canal Street. It's a wonderful location. Should anyone need to extend their stay and enjoy the city. Our group rate for this year for the hotel is $239. Now, that does not include those taxes and fees, but our group rate, if you book through the group rate, which will be shared with you upon registration in a confirmation email so that we can continue to monitor the group rate as well as the rooms that we have available, but $239. And then our conference registration fee is $350. Please know that that is the early bird member rate. And so on our website, you'll find more specifics as to how much registration costs beyond the early bird registration, which ends on January 31st. So you have a little bit of time, and I'll talk a little bit more about timeline in a second. And then our exhibitor registration is $850. That registration is actually open now, and you should have received an email from Diana, especially if you exhibited with us last year. So those are kind of some high 30,000 foot. This is the conference. This is where we'll be. Let me just double check my notes to make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, the conference officially starts on Sunday, March 22nd, but there are some pre-conference and some post-conference opportunities for members. So on Saturday, the 21st, there will be some pre-conference sessions. That is also a part of the proposal experience. They are 3-hour sessions as opposed to the 70-minute sessions that we offer in the midst of the actual conference schedule. And then, of course, on Tuesday, you might find that we'll have some college tours available for those who are, I would say, on the counseling side of the desk, CBO, IEC, anybody who is helping support students directly. Those are opportunities available to you. And let me make sure that's all I needed to say there. And as we talk about presenters, we'll talk through some of this. But if you become someone who submits a proposal and your proposal is approved, ultimately, I will share with you there are no discounts for presenters, and each presenter must be registered for the conference. Presenters may not attend their session solely and then peace out. You must be a registered participant, and we do track that information. Okay, let's move on. So for many of you, you're like, okay, I think I have an idea, but I just really want to get a sense of like how you all go about making decisions and selecting, because as you all know, we have some wonderful options in terms of when people submit, and we are in a great place where we usually get upwards of double the number of slots we actually have available. This year we're looking at 75 slots across 5 session blocks. And so with that being said, that's about 15-ish sessions per block. And then of course we've got those pre-conference 3-hour sessions. With that in mind, we'd like to share just who you might be presenting to. That might be the part of the first factor to include when you think about how do I come up with a session proposal that I feel like will land. And so when you're considering who and what, I would certainly think of what happened in Atlanta. And so you see some of these graphics. We had about 1,000 folks register last year, and you'll see kind of the state breakdown, and you'll also see who was in attendance based on what their role or where they are currently working. And that could shift with New Orleans, but certainly if you want to base it off of what kind of happened last year, this is some demographic information. I would consider maybe the need if you have recently attended NACAC, which it was nice to see some of you at NACAC. If you attended NACAC and you were like, man, there was a session that I really wish popped up, or if you put in a proposal to present at NACAC and it was not approved, come on and submit something for SACAC. Again, if you are feeling that there's something lacking and missing, some information that you did not gain from your last conference experience, rooted in this industry, then please, that sounds like a need. Submit that proposal. I would also say that SACAC, unlike a lot of ACACs, I won't say unlike a lot of ACACs, but I think one thing that we um, perhaps prioritize is the spirit of collaboration. We want to make sure that sessions have a wide range of ideas and opinions and ways of doing the work. So this is a great opportunity for you to look beyond your office. And that's not to say that, an office or a department could certainly submit a proposal. We have done that before. They've been approved before, but I would say those that tend to have great success are sessions that reach beyond their own campus, their own department. Um, and again, an opportunity for you to collaborate and share information around a specific kind of cause, mission, purpose, but maybe with some diversity in thought or variety in the way in which you would do the work. And then relevance to the industry and membership. And typically you'd see us say, relevance to the theme. But this year's theme is a little more flexible. We are talking about an homage to our great organization for making it 60 years and conference planning for 60 years. And it really is a dedication to all of you and to the folks whose shoulders we stand on, who opened doors, not just for us, but for our students, and also who changed lives, again, for us and our students. So you have a lot more flexibility in the theme. So I didn't put that up there necessarily. I absolutely wanted us to think about the relevance to the industry and the membership. So that membership piece is, folks will ask all the time, can I do something about wellness? Can I do something? I mean, this one idea, and I think this was presented last year, which was about um, professionals who are also caretakers. Like, man, that is relevant to many, many folks in our membership. So it doesn't necessarily have to be about the next best practice for testing as much as it could just be, hey, I see the humanity in you and you see it in me, and let's present something that matters to us. And then, of course, have a little fun. I've already been tiptoeing around the sessions that have already been approved. Good job. Or not approved, submitted. Excuse me. We have not approved anything. But for those sessions that have already been submitted, you guys are having some fun with it. And I appreciate that, especially in the spirit of the 60th. Sometimes you might go to a conference and feel like the content is really heavy, especially if it is, world facing right now. But we are also people who like to have a good time. We'll be there for a celebration. So have a little fun with your session as well. Just because someone hasn't done it before doesn't mean that it shouldn't be explored. So yeah, those are like some like high level tips in terms of what we'll be looking for and what will be guiding our conversation. And I would also, I said that you have some flexibility with the theme, but please consider the fact that, SACAC has a vision and a mission statement that you can lean into. We also have a current strategic plan with goals and objectives that you can lean into as well. You are our members, so we'd love to hear from you, especially if there are ways in which we could, as an organization, learn from you. So please consider all of those things when submitting your proposal. So here is a flash at the the review process. So first of all, it is not just me making decisions. I am excited that there are a few of you who would like to join me in that adventure. And so we will have a session proposal review committee, and that's not new this year, but certainly the committee members might be new this year. And so please know that how we've operated in the past is with a blind or a masked review process where we separate kind of your information in terms of names and all of that with truly the content that you share, the description and the learning objectives and your title. All of those things are considered initially. And then, of course, as we start to make some selections, which my goal, and putting it in writing makes it real, right? So my goal is for us to wrap up our selection committee and alert folks who have been approved by mid-November. And some of that has everything to do with when we release registration. You all need to be able to view and review the sessions that are slated to take place at our conference. So all of this information is really just a broad overview of the review process and also the deadlines that exist for us. So mid-November is when we want to tell you yes, maybe, or no, and then confirmation and edits. We would want that by mid-December, which is around the time that we would release registration. And then, of course, another reminder that early bird registration ends January 31st. And for anybody who's like doing the things that my students are doing right now, which is like, gosh, what is it that you guys are looking for? We don't know until you give it to us. I think that we have some ideas that guide us into having productive conversations and making sure that there's a balance from session blocks and making sure that we have enough of something, especially if there's a particular session that might be a little more popular, making sure that that type of session is offered later on in case the room is full. So please know that we don't really know what it is we want until we see what you've given us, just like an admissions person would say. Okay. Resources available to you. So you saw this in the initial email that went out, but also in the What's Coming Wednesday. You see these options, but I just put them in QR code. We checked, they do work. If they don't work, just shoot me an email. But the conference session proposal example. So if you're looking for something that to help give you a roadmap as to like what type of information you should be sharing, especially if you're looking at something like learning objectives and you're like, what does that really mean? You can use that example, and shout out to Dr. Christy Connolly for creating this, oh gosh, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And then of course we have a blank submission if you want to be able to go and look at the questions prior to going into the proposal space. It's a little that website's a little bit clunky, so if you want to be able to get your thoughts together and know what's going to be expected of you for submitting, you can go ahead and use this blank submission form. And then for those of you who have an idea but maybe you haven't matched with a colleague, you want to collaborate with someone else who might also be interested, we have this conference session matching form. All three of these things are things that the lovely Christy Connolly created when she was president-elect, and we've been updating every year, and it's worked. With the matching form, I know that some of the questions might be around like, well, how are you helping to match folks? So for those of you who've already submitted on this form, please know that your sessions thus far are unique in that no one else has said, I have this idea and I want to merge. But I will be communicating with you soon with my own ideas around who and what could work. But please know that the more of you that fill this out, the better that we'll have in terms of matching folks and ideas. But I will be in touch with those of you who've already filled out this form very, very soon to let you know what other folks are submitting and if you guys have an opportunity to mesh together. There are some really great ideas on here. If you're a person who's like, you know what, if you log onto that form and you see I think it says something like, tell us your description idea or your idea. If you're a person who's like, I want to be matched, but I'm not sure that I have a specific idea, I'd like to be connected with someone, you can just put in that particular, because I think it's a required field, you can say, I'm interested in matching with someone who has a great idea and having a conversation. So would love to do that for you all. Right now, there's only a few in there, but please give us more to consider there. So these are 3 resources available to you all. And of course, I am a resource to you as well. I saw a lot of you at NACAC and asked many of you, are you going to submit a proposal? And had a conversation with someone who was like, I just recently transitioned to my job. I need to fill that out. I need to figure out what that looks like first. And I'm like, or a session could be about your transition, right? So there are plenty of people who just experience that. and would find that to be very interesting. So do know that there might be an idea that exists that's not something you're thinking about, but if we have conversation, maybe it will help generate some ideas. Okay, I told you short and sweet. That's all I wanted to share with you, but I wanted to make space for everyone and also wanted to certainly give time for folks to ask questions that maybe I'm not thinking of that could be helpful for others. I do have this little QR code here for anybody who wants to serve on the session proposal review committee. Um, as I said on the form, for those who have already completed that form, this does not exclude you from the opportunity to put in a proposal or to present. We will have some guardrails up around making sure that the process is equitable for your sessions review. But please, if you want to be involved in the conversation and shaping, especially if you have felt in the past that there were sessions that were not represented or that you have very strong opinions about sessions that were, feel free to show me your interest or share your interest with me. Not show me. This is not about demonstrated interest. Share your interest with me. And so I think at this point, I'm super happy to engage in any conversations or chat that might have popped up.
Thank you so much, Anita. So at this time, I do not see any questions that have come through the Q&A or the chat. My thought is that you've answered many of them. We also reviewed the registration questions, and many of those were questions about just the process for
Got it.
submitting a session proposal as
Got it.
well.
And
So
I'll add one thing. Sometimes you submit a session proposal, and this actually happened to me way back when. We won't give years, but it was one of the best things that happened to me. I had been a part of one group of people, and we submitted a proposal. And the SACAC president-elect at the time came back to us and said, "Hey, there is a very similar session that we like, and we would like for you to merge together." And really, it was like, there's no choice. You either do this or you will not be presenting. And it was the best thing that happened because our little group of 6 that merged ended up presenting together for about a 7-year run. So I ended up meeting people that I love to this day and ended up connecting with them by way of this process. So there could be that moment where we might say maybe to you if you do this thing with someone else. Don't be afraid to be open to that. Sometimes we have very specific ideas, but it ends up being this beautiful, beautiful blessing. At least it was to me, my lived experience. So um, did anything else pop in? Okay. Our director of like academic life on campus always says, give it 8 seconds before you move on. So I'm gonna give it 8 seconds before I move on.
and just so you're aware, Anita, you're getting lots of kudos and love in the chat. Just
Okay.
thank you for all the expertise and all the knowledge you've shared.
Well, we love a short and sweet presentation that makes some sense and provides some clarity. But if for anyone who is like, you know what, I'll just email Anita, totally fine. I'll be looking at my email this afternoon to see if I missed anything. Okay.
All right. Well, I guess that brings us to the end. So, as Anita shared, thank you all so much for joining us for today's webinar. Again, Anita, a special thank you to you for the guidance you shared, the insight you've shared as well, and your vision for this webinar. In case you all are wondering, Anita actually submitted the idea for this webinar, and I'm so happy we were able to make it happen. So,
Yeah,
from
thank
here,
you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. So from here, we do wish you all the best as you approach the session proposal process and continued safe travels for those of you who are navigating the college admission travel season or just traveling in general. Until next time, again, this recording will be available on SACAC's YouTube channel for future viewing. But
And
until next
October
time,
20th. I'm not trying to
oh
interrupt
yes,
you,
the
but
deadline.
October 20th, that is the date. Do not make me extend that deadline.
Mhm.
October 20th, Monday, October 20th. It is a super tricky time for our people in our industry,
It
but please get your session proposals in.
is.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and that's a great reminder. So calendar invites, putting it in your planner, however you plan and organize, for sure. But again, thank you all so much. Thank you, Anita, and I wish you all the best and have a great day.
Bye, everybody.